The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it.
But John Brennan is a naked partisan and is a liar. He's acted in ways that would have shocked and horrified previous CI directors, and that's saying a lot. But John Brennan is not ashamed. Far from it, he's proud. And so are his many acolytes in Washington. Phil Mudd is a former CIA employee. Like so many partisans from the intelligence world, he's now a contributor at CNN. Last night, Mudd sent an on-air warning to the president and his lawyer. Back off or prepare to get hurt. So it's a brotherhood, says Phil Mudd, the CIA, a brotherhood that will stab you to death if you disobey. What Phil Mudd is describing is not a conventional government agency. It's nothing like what most of us imagine when we think what Washington is doing on our behalf. The CIA of John Brennan and Phil Mudd does not exist for our benefit. It exists solely for the benefit of the people who work there. We pay for the whole thing, but they do what they want, and they punish anyone who criticizes them. They brag about that. Now that's scary, of course. It's a perversion of democracy. It's exactly what the people who created the CIA feared most. But it's also, if we're going to be honest, it's annoying. Because for all of the hype, the CIA, in the end, isn't even very good at its job. Now remember, this is an intelligence agency. So it's fair to judge their performance against whether or not they predicted crucial events over the past 70 years. And again, they didn't. The CIA, for example, was shocked by the Korean War. It didn't predict the Soviet atomic bomb, not a small thing. It missed the Cuban Missile Crisis and the 1973 Arab-Israeli War. It spent decades trying to bring down Fidel Castro, to kill Fidel Castro. So naturally, his regime never fell. Castro lived into his 90s. Meanwhile, the CIA spent decades propping up the Shah of Iran, so naturally he tumbled from power. They didn't even provide a warning before that happened because they had no idea it was going to happen. When the Iron Curtain finally fell in 1989, the CIA was completely blindsided by it. They thought they had just predicted, in fact, that the Soviet Union was as strong as ever. And things didn't get better after that. The CIA had no idea that Saddam Hussein planned to invade Kuwait the next year in 1990. They were totally surprised by India's atomic bomb test 8 years later. By 2003, they were totally confident that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. In fact, their biggest success in the past 50 years may have been creating the Taliban. If John Brennan had been working for a nonprofit business, there would have been a shareholder revolt a long time ago and probably criminal charges. He would have been John DeLorean. But because it's a secretive government agency, the CIA has not been restrained. In fact, it's only become more powerful and more autonomous. Powerful enough to take down a president? We'll see.
And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
Thus, do always what you should. Consider no longer when, but in all moments, rise for good. Be among the heroes of men. You are called as one